Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly webinar series. Our October webinar will cover navigating financial aid. So today is October 1st, and as many of you know, today is also the day that high school seniors and their families can begin completing the free application for federal student aid, also known as the FAFSA application. We have some great updates today from guest speakers covering important changes to this year's FAFSA and TASFA applications, or also known as the Texas application for student financial aid. We will also hear some best practices from our leader fellows on how they support students and make an impact on FAFSA completion in their districts. Today we have over 125 people registered for the webinar. For all of our attendees, you will receive a follow-up email with the highlights and resources from the webinar and also a link to access the recording. We also post all of our webinar content on our website, texasoncourse.org. Feel free to share our webinar and additional resources with your colleagues that will find the information helpful when working with students and families on college and career planning. So just to give you a little bit of an orientation of Zoom, I know many of you have used it before. The first setting on the right can test your audio, where you can test your speakers as well. All of our attendees are muted. The second one is the raise your hand and lower your hand feature. Our attendees don't usually use that very much because we save some time at the end for question and answer. This is what the question box looks like, and you can type in any question here, and we will make sure to either type the answer or answer it live after we cover our information. And then you can click the send button and change your screen on the corner. So most of the educators that join our webinars are very familiar with Texas OnCourse, but if you're new to our resources, we can tell you just a little bit about who we are and what we do. Texas OnCourse is a state-funded initiative designed to improve college and career advising and readiness across the state of Texas. We provide free college, career, and military readiness resources for educators, students, and families that can help your campus and district. So today, Texas OnCourse has over 12,800 educators that are registered and actively using our academy. Those educators are represented in over 3,000 schools and in over 900 school districts. In the last year, we've seen exponential growth and have heard great feedback from counselors and advisors in the field, as well as gaining new teachers and administrators as a user group. So I'm going to briefly go over our agenda today on financial aid. We will start by brief introductions of Texas OnCourse staff that is contributing to our webinar, as well as the leader fellows that will be joining us today. We will begin with an update on the FAFSA application and changes this year from Phillip Fabian, Manager for College Readiness and Success at Dallas County Promise. Next, we'll cover some important updates on the TASFA application from Leah Smalley, Assistant Director of Financial Aid Services at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. Samantha Gonzalez, Program Coordinator here at Texas OnCourse, will highlight our own resources from our financial aid learning modules within the Academy. And then we will hear from two of our leader fellows on best practices, Charlotte Ward from Lubbock ISD and Ginny Patrick from Bangs ISD. At the end of our webinar, we'll have time for question and answer and a couple of announcements. So before we begin our introductions, I think it's important to mention that there are two legislative updates we should mention on the topic of financial aid. In the last Texas legislative session, House Bill 3 was passed in the state, which requires students to complete and submit a FAFSA or TASFA before graduation from high school. The bill contains a provision that allows students and parents also to opt out. This is in effect for the 2020-2021 school year. We've heard from many school districts that they will begin implementing this as a practice this school year. The second legislative update directs the coordinating board to adopt procedures for students to complete the TASFA by electronic submission. So I'll go ahead and quickly introduce myself. My name's Laura Coogan. I'm Senior Partnerships Coordinator here at Texas OnCourse. My background is in K through 12 counseling and advising, and I work closely with our school districts and their implementation of our middle school resources, our curriculum, as well as our fellows and counselors and educators that are using the academy. Phillip?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Phillip Fabian. I'm the Manager of College Readiness and Success with Dallas County Promise and the Commit Partnership. Commit Partnership is a nonprofit that works in education, and I currently work to manage the implementation of a scholarship program with 57 high schools here in Dallas County. Previously worked as an educator here in Dallas ISD at 8th grade East Spruce High School, and got really fired up for college access and success when I got to teach an AVID class. And had some really awesome 9th graders that had great ideas about what they wanted to do, but either didn't know how to get there or already felt like college wasn't an option. So I'm really excited in my current role to support students and families in exploring and understanding that there are affordable college options out there for them.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Samantha Gonzalez, the program coordinator here at Texas OnCourse on the content and resources team. I have a background in college access and success, and I primarily work on maintaining and developing any content related to high school here at Texas OnCourse.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlotte Ward. I'm a second year cohort, just finishing up my second or last year of our Texas OnCourse Fellowship. I've been a high school counselor here at Lubbock High School for 7 years now, and I've served as a middle school counselor previous to that for Lubbock ISD for about 6 years, and I'm just excited to be able to be a part of Texas OnCourse and share all of the great resources that they have for our students and families.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ginny Patrick. I am just beginning my term as a leader fellow with Texas OnCourse. I'm a high school counselor at Bangs ISD in Bangs, Texas. This is my 13th year counseling, and I've been at a 5A school, a 1A school, a 3A school, and so I've just kind of have a wide range of experience with all kinds of different students from different backgrounds. And so I'm just excited to share some tips today that we've learned about FAFSA.
Great. Phillip?
Awesome. So I'll start off with just a quick update on the updates for FAFSA for 2020-2021. And all of these updates that I'll be sharing, they came directly from a federal student aid presentation that was at the National College Access Network conference earlier this month. So we'll start off with just some general federal student aid updates. So have been really impressed with how they're moving to be more customer and student friendly. And so one of their big things that they're doing is that they identified that the question order on FAFSA.gov did not match what they had on the My Student Aid app. So they will be aligning those questions this year. So the website and the app should match exactly. When students are logging in using their social security number, that number will now be masked at login when using the website or the student aid app. So that way it protects the student's information a little bit better. Great update for the app for the My Student Aid app is that the student's student aid report will now be available in that app as well as directly on the FAFSA.gov website. And then they've also updated the data retrieval tool through the IRS to have a mobile responsive version. So their website was updated last year to be mobile responsive, but the data retrieval tool was not, and they have made an update so that will now be mobile responsive this year. And so these next couple of slides are directly from their presentation, just highlighting some of those changes, particularly in the My Student Aid app. So you can see they've made some changes to be a little more student and parent friendly. So they've got indicators across the app and on certain fields that will label whether they're asking for student information or parent information. You can also see, particularly in that middle picture, that the student's social security number is now masked at login, so it doesn't automatically show their social security number for security. And then they've done a quick update to the signature process that instead of being a swipe signature, it's now a checkbox just at the end of the terms and conditions section. So again, you'll see the updates they've made to really try and help students and parents that are using the app be able to identify what they are logged in as to better understand how they should be entering information. They have renamed the school search section to be school selection in trying to really encourage students to not just type in their high school, but actually select their high school once they've typed it in and searched for it. And then another new feature this year is that they have enabled push notifications within the app and just directly on phones from the application itself. And then they've added and updated their My Checklist feature, which provides guidance for students and parents, particularly on other things that they can be doing, such as the FAFSA forecaster or creating a budget for their college savings. And also we'll have updates around their FAFSA application and its completion. And then finally, for the general updates before we get into some of the application updates themselves, is that they have announced that a new federal student aid website is coming this fall. I'm not sure exactly on the date. They didn't share an exact date, but they have noticed that all of their websites look slightly different. So they're consolidating those into one website this fall that will have all of those resources in a accessible way for students and their families. So the key updates to the application itself, most of those updates have revolved around the changes to the 2018 IRS tax forms and the implications of those changes for the FAFSA application itself, which includes the questions directly asking about those tax forms. It includes the exemption questions, and we'll go into a little bit more detail for each of these. And then it also includes some questions that they've combined around untaxed portions of IRA distributions and untaxed pensions. And then finally, just a reminder that any data elements that were currently transferred by the IRS data retrieval tool will continue to be transferred as long as they are still remaining questions. So starting off with the types of tax return response options. So these pictures that you see here, and apologize for the formatting, but the yellow that you'll see there, that is from the 2019-2020 FAFSA for student section. The purple is from the 2019-2020 FAFSA for the parent section. And so you'll see those throughout. Just wanted to show you what those old questions were, and then the text will actually talk about what those changes are. So the new questions will be 33 and 80. They've taken out that response option for the 1040A or 1040EZ, since those were no longer applicable tax forms during the 2018 tax year. And then they've added 1040NR for non-residents and the 1040NREZ to the foreign tax return responses. So since they took out the 1040A and EZ, which had previously been used for the automatic zero and simplified needs test calculations for the student's EFC, federal student aid did have to develop a proxy for that calculation, and they've repurposed the old questions from the 2019-2020 form, which you'll see for the student in yellow and parent in purple below, that they previously asked if they were eligible to file that. They are now repurposing those questions, which the new numbers will be 35 and 82, to ask, did or will you file a Schedule 1 with your 2018 tax return? And the Schedule 1 form is used to report other types of income that were not listed on a general 1040 form or income adjustments. So they've also taken out the exemptions questions. So for the 2018 tax forms, personal exemptions were removed for self, spouse, and dependents. So they've taken those questions completely off of the FAFSA form. So you'll see examples of what those questions look like for student and parent on the 2019-2020 FAFSA form. Those questions have both been removed. And then finally on the untaxed portions, so these were two questions that were previously separated. As you can see from the form last year, they were sections E and F on questions 45 and 94 respectively last year. Those have now been updated to questions 44E and 92E for this year's FAFSA form, and they've been combined to just ask for untaxed portions of IRA distributions and pensions from IRS Form 1040 gives them a line to look at on the direct tax return form, and then the rest of the instructions are similar to what they've had previous years. So essentially, they've just combined those two questions into one question to reflect the change on the tax form. So finally, we would like to close out with some of the strategies, and these strategies came from the National College Access Network did a grantee challenge of a FAFSA completion challenge. And so we were very excited that many of our Texas regions and local partners here in Dallas County were selected for that FAFSA completion grant this past year. And these were some of the great takeaways from local and national partners, that these were some of their takeaways that were across the board for all of their organizations. And so the first one is really making sure that the adults that already have established connections with your students and their families are able to talk about FAFSA and help build awareness and preparation for your students and families. So reaching out to those adults in your community or even in your school that already have those great connections and helping them talk to your students and your parents about FAFSA and the importance of financial aid and college affordability, because that will come across a lot better to students and parents from someone that they've already got that established relationship with, as opposed to someone that they may not know very well at the start of the school year. Another great thing, and we definitely encourage this here in Dallas County, is having students help lead that work. So having a peer mentor or a peer ambassador system where students are helping other students be prepared and raise awareness and complete their FAFSA, and here in Texas, their TASFA applications. And I would extend that approach to even thinking about how you can work with parents in that same way, to have a parent ambassador program where your parents are helping you spread the word and the awareness and the preparation to other parents at your school and in your community. The next one is one that we've definitely heard lots about, but having multilingual prep resources and staff support. So that way your families, especially your parents that may speak other languages, are able to interact with the resources that you're providing and the staff that are there to help in a really effective way, and to push that support all the way through award letter review and verification. So you're not just stopping at application submission support, but helping students and parents through that whole process before they leave out into out after they graduate high school and get out into the world where they may not have those supports that they know directly. And finally, having some student and staff incentives. So I was really impressed with the amount of organizations that were looking at how they could leverage micro grants or scholarships to support students in completing specific steps. We know swag items like t-shirts and pop sockets are always a great item that students get excited about. And something that we actually implemented with our scholarship program this past year were graduation cords, which were really effective at getting students and parents to kind of reach out to us about what had been going on with their status for the scholarship program. What I will close out with for all of these practices is that you know your students and your community best. So always taking those practices and thinking about how can you apply it in a way that is going to effectively serve the student population that you're supporting.
That is, that's great information. Thank you, Phillip, for those updates on FAFSA and as well for the strategies you mentioned. There was a quick question that was in the question box. The answer is yes, this presentation will be available recording. We can also send you the slides. So now we're going to turn it over to Leah Smalley from the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board to talk about TASFA updates.
Morning, everyone. Like she mentioned, my name is Leah Smalley. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid Services at the Coordinating Board. And my role is I oversee a team that supports institutions of higher education. So our area is the one that pays out all the funding for the state programs, but we also develop the state financial aid application, which you are aware of is the TASFA. And you'll notice on your screen that it actually says draft on it. Well, as of an hour ago, the TASFA was released. It is available online. So it's no longer a draft, but I wanted to make sure for this presentation we weren't sure if it would be live yet, so that's why it says that. So as of this morning, both the English version and the Spanish version are available both on the College for All Texans website and then our internal institutional website, which I'm assuming most of the school districts don't access, but it is in multiple places. If you Google it, it should pop up. And so I'm just going to be going through some of the changes that were made this year. So the first and most apparent change that you're going to see is going to be on, let me go to the next slide, is going to be a selective service statement. And last year, or the year before, we required that institutions of higher education collect a statement from all male students to confirm that they have registered for selective service or that they're exempt. And one of the challenges with that was it was an additional step. It was very confusing for students to do this step. And so we had a committee that met on the TASFA application, and one of the things that they recommended was to add that into the application so that it was already collected and they had less steps to complete. So you'll notice on the second page now in the center of the screen where it's red, the student will now designate either one, that they're not of age to register, so they're under the age to go online and do that, or mail in their registration, or they can choose that they are registered or that they're exempt or that they are going to choose not to register. So there's various options on there. And again, this is really intended for the institution, but since you're going to be working with students who are going to be graduating and their families, it's important that you understand what the statement is going to be there for and how to guide the student on how to register, which is probably a separate initiative. So that is going to be probably the biggest change on this year's TASFA that you'll see. And if you have questions or concerns about the addition of this, you could always reach out to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board by going through our website and sending an inquiry through our Contact Us link. So we know that this is a hot topic for people, so in the event, again, you have questions, send us those. So let's move on to the other changes. So one of the other things that we did this year, only again to reduce confusion for the people that are filling it out, was to remove the credit loads for the grade levels on the first page. So you'll notice on the first box on 19, you'll have all the different listings for whether they're a freshman, sophomore, or senior, and we removed those because again, it's very much up to the institution to determine that, and that would drive their federal aid more so than their state aid. So we figured it was just confusing. So that is no longer there. Moving on to the next item, untaxed income. So based on the committee's review of this application, they felt like some of the questions didn't quite align with the FAFSA, and that not only confused institutional staff but students, because if they were used to doing one application to assist someone and then they got to this application, it was harder to explain. So we did go back in and we updated these questions to more closely align with FAFSA, but I'll tell you they're not identical. You'll still want to use the notes, but we did try and elaborate the untaxed income section so that it was clearer for the end user. And again, these all auto-calculate when the person fills it in online. And by online, I mean a PDF. Okay, federal assistance programs. This not a huge change, but some of the institutions were reporting that when they would get the application, the lack of a mark was confusing. They just wanted to make sure that there was one response or another. So we went ahead and added an NA selection so that they could mark each one independently, whether they get it or not. You'll see that they do need to mark one or the other. This was another one that was relatively big because of the federal requirement that was removed multiple years now back. The committee decided that this was no longer necessary on the TASFA. It just created difficulty amongst the families filling it out, confusion. It was just an extra step to kind of do the verification process. So we removed the non-tax filers section out of the application. Institutions may still require documentation or things from the student to confirm how they are living, but this is not going to be part of the form anymore. Question 82, we added at the bottom a note because as you know with FAFSA, they can add multiple schools to submit those electronically, but most students are printing these out on paper, and they may or may not want to send it to one school. So this just is a note for them to make sure that they understand that if they're going to be applying at different institutions, they need to make copies and send one to each location, because each school has a different process on how they collect documentation and their deadlines. And that's it. So if you have questions, like I mentioned, you can either type them in the box below, or you can go to our website and send us a contact us.
Leah, there was a question that I saw in the question box that asked, can students, will they eliminate themselves from the student financial aid if they do not join the selective service?
So the majority of the programs require that a student be registered or be exempt. So they do have to register for selective service or prove, and again, the institution would collect that exemption or reason why they're not registered. But yes, all state programs in the statute and in the rule do state that the student must be registered or exempt for selective service.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we answered all the questions. Go ahead, Samantha.
Good morning again. So today I'll be highlighting several resources that can be hung in the office, in the classroom, or shared with students and families during any type of financial aid night or information night. The resources that I'll be highlighting today can be located within the Academy. Here's an example of the different badges that can be earned in our financial aid content area. Our focus for today is on the financial aid application process, but we also have badges in other areas, such as a scholarship application process, college costs, and then your foundational knowledge. The Academy was recently updated this past summer and looks a little different if you have not signed in recently. Here's an example of our layout and dashboard once the learner has logged in and wants to check their progress and explore the modules. If you haven't began conversations about financial aid, the following infographics are great conversation starters. Use the financial aid applications infographic to the left to help students and families understand which application is appropriate for them. Use the types of scholarships infographic to talk about the different types of scholarship opportunities there are. It's never too early to start finding scholarship opportunities. The financial aid applications infographic can be found within the basic principles of financial aid module within the Academy, and the types of scholarships infographic can be found within the scholarship applications module. The best practices for TASFA tracking infographic provides counselors, advisors, and educators involved in assisting students with TASFA completion with strategies to track TASFA application submissions. Because the TASFA has to be mailed to each institution, like mentioned by Leah, by the student, and no formal digital tracking system like the FAFSA, the infographic can be used for to help ensure students send all documentation needed and to meet deadlines. For instance, by keeping a spreadsheet of TASFAs and additional documentation that have been mailed off to each institution, you can provide verification for the student in the case that documentation gets misplaced at the institutional level. The state financial aid eligibility requirements infographic can be hung in your office or classroom and shared with students and families during advising sessions or financial aid nights hosted on campus. Students can quickly identify if they're eligible to apply for and receive state financial aid. This infographic can also be used as an opportunity for students and families to ask more clarifying questions about state financial aid and next steps in the application process. Both of these infographics can be found within the TASFA Academy module. And in addition to finding these resources along with many others in the module, you can go to our Pinterest at pinterest.com/Texas OnCourse to find more resources regarding the FAFSA, as well as the TASFA and other financial aid areas.
Great. Thank you, Leah, for the TASFA update and Samantha for our resource spotlight. We're going to turn it over to our leader fellows and start with Ginny Patrick from Bangs ISD to talk a little bit about the things that they do at their campus.
Thanks, Laura. So I just wanted to preface a little bit about my job at my campus. I'm the lone counselor at my high school currently. So I serve about 80 seniors on average and about 300 students, 9 through 12. And so I'm definitely a person that wears a lot of hats. And so what I'm going to talk about today is how to integrate some of the practices and things that we need to get done into some of our classes. So first, you can see on the slide here that we have something called an ID day. And this is just where we pull all of our seniors in our business English classes, and we pull them and have them create their FSA ID. So we actually did this last week on our campus, and it was very successful. We introduced students to the My Student Aid app that Phillip mentioned before. And so lots of kiddos go ahead and get that downloaded on their phone and get their ID set up. And we find that during that time that we pull them in class, that the students really reach out to their parents during that period and want to go ahead and get their parents' ID set up as well. And so a lot of times students are able to go ahead and work through that during that class time with their parents. But since we were able to work on it in class, some also go home and go ahead and get their parents' account set up. So when we do hit October 1st, our students are ready to roll. A next project that we do at our school is something called Know Your Net. And this is a group collaborative that we have at our school between our financial math classes and our business English classes. And it's actually a project that the two classes merge together, and students in English classes research their financial aid reward packages. And so they're just looking on different websites of colleges that they're interested in, and they want to know what the net cost is, what the actual cost per year is going to be at their prospective schools. And so knowing that beforehand, students go into their financial math classes and use the FAFSA forecaster. They talk about EFCs, and they're just trying to get an overall idea of what they're wanting out of their financial aid reward package once they get it from different schools. And so we've found that this is a really great way to just foster independence with our seniors. They really take a step forward and take ownership of this next step that they're going to embark on, and the seriousness of it. And they can really learn the value of money going towards their college education. And so after we have our Know Your Net project, we do have a financial aid workshop. We're having that usually the first week in October. And this is something that we just advertise on social media. We do send letters home. And I do use Remind with my students. That's just what works best with me here, just to advertise that workshop. So our financial aid workshop that we have here is really set up in a workshop style fashion. So we just reserve computer labs. And one thing that I just really want to focus on is some of the new legislation that just came out this past summer. And we do know that the FAFSA is going to be required in the year 2021. And so it's just incredibly important, especially if you're the lone counselor in your high school or at a small rural school, that you just find your partners. There are true partners out there that are wanting to help you and your students. And just to be honest, you can't do it all alone. And so don't try to be a one-man band. Find your partners. So I do have 3 community colleges surrounding me that come and help me with this night. I can't help every single family during those financial aid workshops. So I usually have about 8 to 10 other people from community colleges come in and help me at these events, so that every student gets the help and the advice and the guidance that they deserve. And so I just encourage you to really reach out to your community colleges, because they want to help. They have staff that can help, and they're readily available. If students can't come to our FAFSA workshops, we do have a step-by-step guide that I just post on our local social media. So students and families can complete it at a time that is more convenient for them. And then lastly, I just wanted to share a little tip that we've started doing at our school, and I really think it's a great way to, again, foster some independence with our students. When I meet with 10th graders, we start something called a Life 101 folder. This is a true paper folder that we provide for each student. And we have little tabs and brads in there that we start storing important information. We start talking about events and activities that they're involved in that we want them to document and have available. So when scholarship applications and college applications ask about them, they're readily available. We put students' TSI scores in there. We put their SAT and ACT scores, pre-ACT, everything that would be important for next steps to college, we put in there. Relating to FAFSA, we print out the student aid report and put in this Life 101 folder. So it's just a great, magical, one-on-one place where you can get everything. It's a one-stop shop for them. This works best for my school because we're not a one-to-one school, but many of you probably are one-to-one schools. So this could easily be created in a digital fashion where students could scan in things and create a digital folder. So it's just something that the kids really enjoy doing, and it creates a ton of independence on their part. And we've just found that it's been helpful.
Thank you so much, Jenny. We're going to transition over to Charlotte Ward from Lubbock ISD.
Good morning. So here in the Lubbock area, in Lubbock ISD and in the kind of surrounding South Plains area, we have a partnership with a program called Learn. It's a TRIO program. It's a nonprofit community-based organization that's federally funded by the Department of Education. And they're here to serve helping with college readiness. And so we do have two full-time, not full-time, but two full advisors that assist us with FAFSA application completions on our campus. They are assigned to our campus 2 days a week. And they're here at 8 to 4 to help our students. They also co-host 5 parent FAFSA days where they work completely with our parents. They set up individual appointments to work with those parents, since sometimes parents feel like that information is confidential. And they kind of started already pre-booking those dates, and I think they pretty much have all 5 of those days filled. Once they fill up those days, they do usually work with the parents to meet with them other times, maybe during some of the days that they're here on our campus, but also off campus in their own offices. So we're really excited to have them. They're kind of like a huge saving grace, and we don't know what we would do without them. I know that it's something that is in the South Plains area. It's been around for a while. I've been in education here at Lubbock ISD for 17 years. And as long as I've been here, I think it's been here. They also help co-host a parent informational night with Lubbock ISD. We have a college and career night that we partner up with Texas Tech to host, and they have representatives from other surrounding college financial aid offices that come in and kind of offer a Q&A session with parents and help them get started with that information. And then the Learn advisors pair up with us here specifically on our campus. We see all of our seniors in English class in the beginning of their senior year. So we've already gone to see them at the beginning of September. And we talk to them again to follow up with them about what they should be doing as they are entering senior year to stay organized and on top of things leading into college applications and to get ready for that FAFSA window that opened up today. And we provide them, we give them a copy of a brochure that you can order from the Texas Workforce Commission office, actually. It's a little trifold brochure, and it breaks down all of the different forms of financial aid. And so we put that in their hands to give them something specific to take home. And then we can transition to the next slide. Our campus holds a college and career fair, like fiesta type style college day, I guess you could say, that we have here specifically on our campus at Lubbock High, and we do that every October and April. And our counselors and our learned advisors have tables set up there where we also hand out information to students as they come by, because that is open to all of our 9th through 12th graders. And so as soon as we can get the information in their hands, we do that. Our district also has a college readiness office. We have a director who kind of oversees CCMR. And there is a high school handbook that's created that she monitors, and it's available to all of our parents and students, and it's downloadable as a PDF. That's posted on the Lubbock ISD website, and we also have a link to it on our Lubbock High Counselor page. But it breaks down everything that a student and parent needs to know about success in high school and transitioning to college. It gives them information about financial aid, what the FAFSA and the TASFA looks like, eligibility for the Texas grant, and some other things like that. We do send out a link in the beginning of the school year to all of our parents, kind of a mass email that is information from the counseling office, and one of the links that we provide them is the PDF downloadable link for that specific handbook. And then we also link it, like I said, to our department page. In the spring of junior year, we do host a parent night, usually in April. And in that night, we invite parents to come in so that we can talk to them about how to prepare for senior year, to go ahead and talk to them about financial aid. And we, again, have our learn advisors come with us that evening, and they usually will go ahead and bring all of the same handouts that they would hand out in the senior English class, and have a form for parents to be able to sign to give parent permission to work with those students. And so that helps some of our kiddos go ahead and get a head start in the beginning of senior year. And then we, as a department at Lubbock High, we have our own scholarship list that we keep on our website for our students. Our district, or you can change the slide, sorry. Our district director over college and career readiness has developed a brochure with a bunch of common scholarships and safe scholarship search engines that we also give to our students, that is available on our Lubbock ISD website under the department, and we also link it on our scholarship page. But we go ahead and give that to our students in their junior year as well, to help them kind of get started on that exploring piece if they've not already done that. And then we just started handing out a copy of a Texas OnCourse, I guess, a handout that was developed by them. That is a page of all of the Texas guaranteed tuition programs. That's been something that we have found a lot of our students enjoy getting, because there's a lot of students on our campus who fit those criteria of their families not or falling underneath that certain threshold of household income. And so it's kind of exciting to see them get excited about where they think they can apply. We specifically have added Rice investment to that because it's not quite on there yet, but we do have a few students who apply to Rice every year. And so that's something we're excited to have, and we are so grateful to Texas OnCourse, and we will continue to hand that out. And something that we also do as a group in our department is that we do have access to Apply Texas. Our director works with Region 17 to make sure that we all have approval to get into Apply Texas, so that we can monitor our students that are using that application site. But also in Apply Texas, you can go in and you can monitor FAFSA application completions of your students. And so we do log into that every couple of weeks to kind of get an idea of our students that have applied, to see who's stuck or maybe hasn't made any progress. And we work with our Learn advisors to see if any of those students are signed up with Learn, and if they're not, then we do make referrals to Learn, so that those advisors can meet with those students and help them get their application completed, or maybe help answer some questions that maybe they're stuck on. And then something that is new for us this year that we're going to try to do, there's a new advisor in the Texas Tech University admissions office here this year that serves our local area. And so she is going to come in about every other week to our campus specifically and pull her list of our students that have applied to Texas Tech University and follow up with those students one-on-one to see where they're at in their application process to help expedite any of that or answer any questions, but to also speak to them specifically about their financial aid and scholarship opportunities at Texas Tech. So we're really excited about having her come this year, and we hope to see a lot of progress come out of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Jenny and Charlotte for their sort of best practices. They are doing a lot of great things and have a lot of great partnerships. And they're also just really great boots on the ground for Texas OnCourse, and they share a lot of our resources in their regions. So thank you both for sharing that information. We have one other fellow that was not able to join us today, and that is Stacy LaBruyere from Montgomery ISD. She has some really great tips on sharing common mistakes that students and families make on the FAFSA, and we wanted to include those in the webinar. The first one is just making sure students and families use their correct legal name and not a nickname or anything that has been shortened. Your name should match your legal name. You'd be surprised at how many students and families end up having issues with FAFSA because of names. The next one is questions on grade level. Students that you're working with that are seniors are incoming freshmen, and they have a couple of different choices, and it can be confusing, but those seniors are going to choose that they've never attended college or they're a first-year freshman. This is the first bachelor's degree, and this is their first associate's degree or certificate that they're applying for. A lot of times students and families got confused if they have earned dual credit or dual enrollment courses, but they can also choose that as an option. Yes, they've earned dual credit, but they will also choose that option that they have earned dual credit and attended college, and there will be a first year. So when you're looking at Apply Texas or you're looking at financial aid application, those are some things that you want to make sure are correct. Also, making sure that there are multiple signatures on the FAFSA. Students and parents both must sign the FAFSA. There's also some questions in the income earned section, income that was not reported on the tax return, and Phillip went over some of this in the IRS forms. But things like child support received needs to be included, and then also taxes paid. This amount cannot be the same as the adjusted gross income. And also, families want to make sure that the parent's marital status is specific and correct. In addition to the common mistakes, here were just a couple of helpful tips that we got from Stacy in Montgomery. Make sure students don't answer any updates or do not update any answers that say transferred from the IRS, or the institution may require students to supply additional documentation. This basically means that the IRS data retrieval tool is helpful for this reason, and you don't want to change any of the information that has been retrieved through the IRS data retrieval tool. The next one is when students using the tool to retrieve tax information for both the student and parent, this actually has to be completed twice before submitting the FAFSA, once under the student financial information section and once under the parent financial information section. So that will actually happen twice. Another helpful tip is if you get an error message, make sure that you can verify the information you entered exactly matches the information on the federal income tax return. For example, if drive is listed as DR on your tax return, you must enter that exactly in the IRS data retrieval tool for that to work correctly. So we've had some helpful tips, some common mistakes, some really informative updates on both FAFSA and TASFA applications, as well as highlighting some resources from Texas OnCourse. We will also send out, we've mentioned a lot of resources in this webinar, and we do a follow-up email, and we will include all of those in there. Links that we've mentioned, we've also added here some great video tutorials that really help the process, helping first-generation students, youth and foster care, 8 steps to completing the FAFSA are just some really popular ones. So we will include these in our follow-up email to you. We've had a couple questions along the way that I think we've answered from our guest speakers, but this would now be the time to add any questions, if any come up before we close out our webinar. All right, well, I don't see any questions. We can always follow up with an email. Once you receive the follow-up email that we will send you, we can answer any questions and send you out the resources. Just a couple of quick announcements. The next couple of webinars for the fall semester. The first one is on November 5th, and we'll be talking about endorsements and career pathways. And then on December 3rd, we'll cover A through F accountability in the state of Texas, making an impact using Texas OnCourse resources in your districts. So here is a link as well to our monthly webinar series. This is where you can register for our upcoming webinars as well as see the webinars that we've previously recorded. With that being said, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate our guest speakers taking their time. So thank you, Phillip and Leah, as well as Samantha, Jenny, and Charlotte for all that great information. Thank you all so much. We'll follow up with our email and have a great day. So here are a couple of questions that we can see. Can you tell us where the Texas Guaranteed Tuition Program list is? Okay, and so that has been answered via chat, but we will add that. But the PDF is located within the College Finances module and the Academy. We will also send that to you. Thank you, Samantha, for answering that. Any other questions? Okay, thank you all. Have a great day.